this is on. Yeah? Trying not to get feedback from the other mic there. We'll see if we can do this. Good morning, all. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Heather Wilson. I'm the president of the University of Texas at El Paso. I appreciate your being here. We wanted to talk about something publicly that we've been working on privately for some time now and working and communicating with the county on, but we've now formally sent a letter to the county asking the county to consider putting a bond issue on the November ballot that would relate to the Sun Bowl. Sun Bowl was built in the 1960s by the county for the University of Texas to use. So it was originally constructed by the county, and it's been updated and so forth over the last decade. UTEP has probably put about $20 million into the Sun Bowl, particularly on the west side. But there are some things about it that are issues. When we came back from the pandemic, one of the things the university did was to say, all right, what are the things we're not doing that we should be doing? What are our underused assets to accomplish our mission? And our mission includes teaching and advancing discovery. It also includes positively impacting the health, culture, education, and economy of the community we serve. And when we looked at what we have available to us here and the impact of UTEP in this community, one of the things that rose to the top was the Sun Bowl. It is an iconic venue. It's one of, when I travel around the country and people hear that I'm from El Paso, it's usually one of two things they say. It's either the 1966 basketball team, right? Glory, oh, I've seen Glory Road. Or it's the Sun Bowl. They've seen the bowl game. It's been televised, or they've come here. I mean, it attracts so many people to El Paso. The third one is Fort Bliss, but that's Army, so it's an iconic venue, and there's nothing like it for 300 miles around. There's certainly nothing like it in West Texas. 46,000 seats in the Sun Bowl. It's an incredible venue, but it's underused. So we started looking at trying to use it more in the same way that we've done with the Don Haskins. Jorge Vasquez, whom some of you probably know, runs our external events. And we used to do about 5 events a year at the Don Haskins that were not university events. I'm not talking about our basketball games or graduations and so on, but ticketed events where you could go to an event at the Don Haskins. This year we will do 35. So we also started talking to the 4 or 5 companies nationwide that promote large shows about the Sun Bowl. And we've discovered more and more through those interactions what some of the barriers are to using the Sun Bowl more. Now, we have used it more. Some of you may remember in August we had back-to-back concerts in the Sun Bowl, and both of them sold out. RBD was one, Def Leppard and Motley Crue was the other. And we were able to do those back-to-back, selling out the Sun Bowl, and one of the nights for one of those concerts was also UTEP night at the Chihuahuas game, which was also a record attendance. So this is a big city that can accommodate and do multiple events at the same time, and we should use the Sun Bowl. So, but in engaging with these promoters, we started to identify the reasons that trucks were passing us by on I-10 or stopping for gas in El Paso on their way through to Tucson or Phoenix or Denver or Colorado Springs and not stopping here with us. And we started looking at what can we do to change that and use this venue more to benefit the community in which we live. So that's what we've been talking about privately, and today we are going public with that request to uplift the Sun Bowl. A couple of things to remember on this because we're going to talk about them. If you'll see, the Sun Bowl has turf, has an artificial turf on it. So when we do something in the Sun Bowl, we have to put a cover on that artificial turf. Right now, that cover is rented. Its cost to rent for the promoter, directly to the promoter, is about $300,000. There are shows increasingly have a lot of power requirements. These big shows have all kinds of lights and bells and whistles and so forth. The Sun Bowl does not have the power requirements for most of these large shows, so they actually have to rent a diesel generator in order to power some of these big shows. That diesel generator rental costs about $90,000. There are other things as well, and we'll talk about those, but I wanted to particularly point out the field because that's one of the things that's going to go into this. This is, as I mentioned, the largest and best-known venue in West Texas. Seats 46,000 people. There's nothing comparable, nothing even close. And it really is the only venue large enough to potentially get what we would call A-level acts, the kinds of venues that will sell out 46,000 seats, and where people will come to El Paso, particularly for those kinds of acts. We've had 8 million fans come to the Sun Bowl over the years, and it is an exceptional stadium. I mean, all of you, I'm sure, have visited there from just looking out over that stadium. It is an awe-inspiring place. So it has appeal from a superficial point of view, if we can, and it also has appeal geographically, if we can bring it into the kind of shape that it would need. Here's what, when we looked at this post-pandemic, here's one of the issues. We have, 6, maybe 7 football games a year, home football games a year, maybe 5, right? There are a few other high school games that are played, special high school games in the Sun Bowl. We got monster trucks. I don't understand the appeal myself, but we got monster trucks a couple of days a year. And then some major concerts, as I said, we've been starting to do more of those. We're only using the Sun Bowl 30 days a year. This is one of the most underused facilities in this entire region. So the question becomes, how can we as a community get more out of this iconic facility and accomplish our mission better and positively impact the community in which we live? So what we have proposed to the county is a general obligation bond. So the voters would have a chance to vote on this, right? In November. The first priority is an all-drivable field cover system, so that we would have here that cover so the promoter doesn't have to rent it. So as you're working with a promoter and they're figuring out where they stop and so on, they're putting pencil to paper and saying, well, I've got to rent cover, I've got to rent power, there's no kitchen, so you've got to bring in a trailer to be able to provide, you've got to bring in food or bring it over from the Sodexo. The green rooms are not in good shape at all, nor are the locker rooms, which is a big concern for the Sun Bowl Association. So you've got to rent double wides or have people over in the Don Haskins where the facilities are better and bring the talent over in golf carts. Those kinds of things. And they're putting their stubby pencil to those things and saying, oh, that's more expense, it's more risk. What happens if we only sell 30,000 tickets instead of 46, and maybe we'll just go on to Tucson or Las Vegas, right? Electrical system upgrade for powering those shows. The other issue with the Sun Bowl in the south end, and you can see it a little bit here, it's not possible to get 18-wheeler trucks down this ramp. As a result, the shows have to take a forklift up and down that ramp to 18-wheelers outside. It is amazing to me, but it used to be these traveling shows had, 8 or 10 trucks. Now there are 20 trucks. And getting set up and torn down quickly is important. Just as one example, we've changed around a lot of the things at the Don Haskins to make it more efficient. One of them, and you wouldn't even notice this if you go to an event, I certainly don't, but through this process I've gotten to learn more about this. Our stage now at the Don Haskins has wheels on it, and you can push it apart into 2 pieces, and the grid comes down from the top, so you don't have people on ladders hanging lights. You bring the grid down and then you hoist it back up. You break the stage into 2 so that you can get people all around setting things up more easily. One of the events that we had there this year estimated that they were going to finish the concert, load out, and be on the road at 3 a.m. Okay, that sounds pretty good after a concert. In fact, because of the way it's set up, they were able to finish up, be on the road at 1 a.m. All right, so what's the big deal? That 2 hours saved saved the promoter $28,000 in labor costs. So by making it more efficient to be able to, can you get in and out in a day rather than a day and a half, loading 18-wheeler trucks and get back on the road is a significantly reduced expense. So these are things that really, we only really started to know when we engaged with the promoters to say what would make El Paso a must stop rather than a gas stop, right? So those kinds of things, there are things that these A-list acts and the fan experience, we know we've got problems with restrooms and concessions, and we've also got, we've done a complete structural survey of the Sun Bowl, so we know that structurally it's okay, but there are some things that need to be done, and so we'll have to put those in. This is just one example. We've got some concrete issues, some spalling, some cracks and exposure to sun, rain, those kinds of things that just need to be taken care of over the long term so that they don't get worse. And of course, restrooms and concessions and those things. What it'll bring to El Paso, concerts and events for the city and for the community. We know that people will come to these events because we've been testing this out both with the Don Haskins and with several large events in the Sun Bowl, monster trucks, RBD, Def Leppard, so people will come to these events. So what we did was we had the Hunt Institute, we gave them some parameters, and I'll talk a little more about that for those who have questions, but we said to the Hunt Institute that does economic analysis here, give us an economic analysis, and we told them to, add 3 A-level events to the Sun Bowl a year. What would that do? And then we've extrapolated that. We think we can probably do an additional 8 events at the Sun Bowl without pushing too hard. I mean, that's a very conservative estimate, I think. If we're not using it for 330 days a year, we think we could add an 8 A-level events in good weather months. The economic impact of those events to this region is over $2 billion over 30 years, which is the same period over which a bond would be paid off. The estimate from the Hunt Institute was over 600 jobs created and $82 million in additional county and city, so El Paso tax revenue, not state and federal, we backed that out, but for the local region, another $82 million in county tax revenue over 30 years. So we're asking the county to put a $99 million bond, which they should recover most in tax revenue, plus the positive economic benefit to the community and the jobs, and El Paso gets a lot more concerts and entertainment. We think that this is probably one of the only bond, I know there are a lot of priorities, no question, and there was a list released and they had some public hearings and information sessions on those projects, and I'm a big supporter of wanting parks and clean water and roads and all of those things. We think that this is probably the only project that has a net, a return to the community. So both tax revenue coming in and also a positive economic impact in jobs for the potential to have that impact with one of these bond projects on something that is severely underused now. So it's how do we use the assets we have as a community to better serve the community and bring economic activity in. When we did this work with the Hunt Institute, one of the things we did is we worked with Ticketmaster. That's who the vendor that helps us sell tickets to events here at UTEP. And there are, we have the records of 300,000 people or so who at some time have come to an event. And so we went out and surveyed them, and we got 4,000 responses, which was a pretty good set of responses. And we asked them things. First, how far away do they live? So are they outside 150 miles? Did they stay overnight? Did they go out to a restaurant? We also asked, for the El Pasoans, have you gone outside of the city and somewhere else to go to a major event, an entertainment venue? I was actually surprised by the impact that that'll have of people not going to Phoenix or Isla de Pueblo or somewhere else and spending El Paso and spending their disposable entertainment income somewhere else. When we were talking to some people earlier this week, one of them said, yeah, I'm going, there's a Brooks and Dunn concert in Isla de Pueblo in a couple of weeks. I'm going up there. And somebody else said, yeah, my daughter's in Austin. She wants me to come and take her to a concert, some artist I've never heard of, at the Moody Center. You know, so they're going to fly to Austin. They're going to stay overnight, the whole thing. So how can we keep more of this disposable income here in our community by having the X here in the Sun Bowl? Tourism spending, this is you know, hotels, restaurants, gas, things like that, the impact of that. Because people will come to El Paso for major events. And then, of course, retail spending that's associated with these events. So sometimes the ticket is the small part of what the real impact is. It's all of the things that people do around it, and they go out to dinner afterwards, and they meet friends for drinks, and they stay in town, and they, you know, they make a weekend of it, right? So this is all drawn from the Hunt study, but basically annual tourism and retail impact of about $69 million of adding 8 A-level events to the Sun Bowl. So we think that this has the ability to be a venue for all of El Paso and to positively impact the community in which we live. But we can't do this alone. We think it has a positive impact. We've done the research to know that we're pretty confident that it will. But it's something that we really would have to do together, not just as a university. Our tuition and fees cannot be used to upgrade an athletic facility. We also can't use, there's a public university fund that funds a lot of facilities for universities, but it cannot fund things that are not directly related to the academic or research mission. So we have to work with the community. That's why this was built originally by the county for UTEP. What we have asked people and what we were asking people to do is to go to, there are now nine community meetings that have just been announced. There's a bond advisory committee to the county commissioners. And the county commissioners set that up to take input from the community. And we have asked our partners, our friends, our people who care about this and think this is a good idea to please go to one of those community meetings and express your preference. All we are asking of the county commission is for this to be added to the ballot as one of the projects that they are willing to allow the voters to have a say on. So, and then of course contacting county commissioners. And so we will ask people to do that and give them the information in the one-pager that you have there. There's also a website that I think is live now as well. So that's, let me just see, I think there's one slide. Where is the, there we go. So to us, these are the important things. I would say one thing. Some of you may have done some more homework and looked at the Hunt study. And since we're a university, we always require you to do math problems. You know, just as for those of you who are wondering about this, because somebody did mention it who had seen the Hunt study, and we provided that to the county as well. The numbers that are in your press release, when we asked them to do the Hunt study, they said we need some parameters. And we said, look, let's make this simple. Add 3 events a year. Figure it out with a 20-year bond. And so this was very early on because it took several months to do the economic study. When we got closer to this and said, all right, what's reality? What do we think we can reasonably do? We think we can add 8 events a year. And the bond that we're talking about is not a 20-year bond, it's a 30-year bond. So some of those numbers you'll see there are different. So you have to, you know, divide by 3, multiply by 8, that kind of thing there. But that, just also so you know, with respect to economic impact, we, on tax impact, we took out federal and state taxes. Let's just look at tax impact. So this this county and city, so it's in the county, it includes city tax revenue. This is just local. This is not state or federal. So what's that impact? And then we didn't include construction costs as part of the economic impact. Obviously, that will have an impact, but we think that the county is probably going to approve $500 million in bonds, so there will be economic impact of construction no matter what. So that doesn't differentiate this project from some other project. So we thought, the way we're doing this is intended to be very fair and very conservative with 8 additional acts per year. So for those of you who were wondering about the Hunt study, and for those of you who don't want to do the math, believe me, this is divide by 3, multiply by 8, it'll come up to these things. I'd be happy to answer questions. Yes, sir.
Is there any part of the proposal that will require approval from the Board of Regents?
We have been working with the University of Texas system on and have already gotten at the staff level their permission to move forward with this in a memorandum of understanding with the county.
I think the question most is why should taxpayers have to fund the bill? What's your response to that?
So I think that there are going to be bonds and a certain amount of bonds on the November ballot. The question is, what do they go for? And this is the only one that I think actually will generate tax revenue back to the county and city of El Paso. So this is also a venue to benefit all of El Paso, to bring more things to El Paso, so that geographically we're very well located. People are driving by on I-10, and the acts are going east-west. They're also going north-south. RBD started their U.S. tour here in El Paso. So we're trying to use the assets we have to benefit the people of El Paso in a way that also creates jobs and positive economic impact. So I think it's different in that way. It's not just about an expenditure. It actually has a return.
President Wilson, so this would be $99 million part of a $500 million bond package? That's your understanding?
That is correct. Well, if they choose to go this way. No, I don't know that. I don't know. My guess is they're going to break this out into some different choices, but you would have to ask the county on their intention there. But my expectation is that this is not just all one vote, that there would be multiple votes and choices, and that people would have the opportunity to choose. Is this something you want to do?
If it was one package, would you think it would have much of a chance of being passed?
I'm not going to go on that hypothetical. I do think that this makes sense, and I think a lot of the other projects make sense too. But it will be up to the voters.
So what happens if the county won't do the bond, or if the bond fails? How will this be funded, or will it just be scrapped?
We won't be able to do it, and so we will continue to do very few events in the Sun Bowl. We won't be able to attract these top-level acts. And people from El Paso will continue to go to Las Vegas or Austin or Dallas or San Antonio for entertainment when we have an exceptional venue. The other thing is, it's not like we have to build this. It's already here. So it's a question of upgrading what we have. And there are more and more of these shows that are monster shows. So that's the trend that's happening. So how do we, as El Paso, benefit from this instead of getting passed by?
How does UTEP benefit economically from these type of events, not this type of football games?
There's not a lot of benefit to us. It's our mission to positively impact the community. Obviously, there will be better locker rooms at the south end of the stadium. We do try to operate these at net positive revenue to put money back into the facility. So we do that, for example, at the Don Haskins. I should go back and look at my numbers, but I think we were overall last year positive net revenue about $500,000. We use that money to put back into the facility to upgrade it so it can do more things, like the new flooring system that we just put in the Don Haskins. So that's an example.
UTEP hasn't necessarily been in this kind of limelight right here where they're in public
this, are you leaning on city leaders, or are you leaning on different relationships you have to help, execute something like this?
Well, we have, as I said, this partnership goes back to the 1960s when the county built this facility for UTEP. They're very, we are woven into the fabric of this community. It's not something that the university can do alone, and it wasn't something that my predecessor in the 1960s could have done. But the community together, we can, and we're willing to do so.
A few questions. First, would the county have the ability to use the Sun Bowl for events as part of this partnership?
In fact, that's one of the ways that we do this memorandum of understanding has to do with their right to use. It would probably be 6 or 7 days a year. And we will write that into the MOU. To be very honest, I think the real benefit to the county is the economic impact, the tax revenue, and the opportunity to have events here that would otherwise pass us by. So yes, that will be written to the MOU, and they will have that right. It's the equivalent of, they figure it out mathematically as an intergovernmental memorandum of understanding. But I think the real reason to do this is the economic impact.
Can you speak to any market analysis there have been done, considering the city's moving forward with another kind of amphitheater project, and then also one in the Northeast, and then of course the other venues?
It's interesting. We have looked at that, and they're very different markets. So. And even the Don Haskins, Don Haskins has about 12,000 seats. The new amphitheater on the east side will have about the same, but they are, this was not something that until we started really working on this, I understood about this industry. But if a show is going to be an outside show, they have trucks and systems and everything for an outside show. So the shows, and the same is true for an inside show. So the touring shows that plan to be inside in a place like the Don Haskins are not looking at an outdoor amphitheater. And the thing that's just so different about the Sun Bowl is it's 46,000 seats. There's no other place that comes even close to that. So this is a completely different level of act. There are more of these acts that are going to these large outdoor Sun Bowl-sized shows.
What went into the decision to keep the same number of seats, and are there going to be any improvements to like the bleachers or any of those seating?
We know we have some repair work to do in the bleacher areas, and we have added both loge boxes and some other seating on the west side. We'll take a look at that, but we want to do this cost effectively as well. So we know that there are a lot of demands on the county bonds. We need to make sure that we do the things that are the best for the fan experience and make this a venue that people want to come to. And so we're probably going to have to make some trade-offs there, but that one will certainly be on the table.
What are your conversations with commissioners looking like? Do they seem receptive? And do you have a response to Commissioner Carlos Leon coming out this morning with a statement against the project?
Well, I've read his statement. What he said is he's listening to the Bond Advisory Council, which is exactly what we would expect them to do. And the Bond Advisory Council is listening to the people of El Paso. This is the first opportunity that the people of El Paso will have an opportunity to say, yeah, we think this makes sense, or it doesn't. We intentionally worked with and met with the county commissioners to say, all right, what do you think? And get their sense of things. And the next step is for the people of El Paso to tell the Bond Advisory Council and their county commissioners, do they want to do this or not? Does this make sense?
How are they reacting to that? Do they seem receptive to it?
The community?
The commissioners?
Yes. Yeah. We would not have moved forward if they weren't okay with that and saying, yeah, let's see what people think. And now people have to tell them, what do you think?
Will this project include an upgrade in the lights to LEDs versus the traditional lighting that we have right now?
Wasn't currently on the list of the things we looked at. Be very honest with you on that.
And then their cell phones to get tickets into these events?
Yeah, the cell phone issue, we're actually addressing whether this project goes forward or not. It's been several years in the making with the contractor to expand Wi-Fi service in the Sun Bowl. So that's already underway. It's not there yet, but that project is underway, funded by the university.
And then how about the entry wait time? Because we've seen, many long lines, and it's kind of hard for people to get in.
Yeah. It's possible that we may be able to improve that somewhat, particularly when we redo the south end. But that's really kind of a design issue. How can we do that and do it safely? Yes.
We were talking about how a packed Sun Bowl means positive revenue for El Paso. One of the big concerts was in Austin and Texas A&M, where they fill up their stadiums 100+ capacity. So wouldn't upgrading or making the UTEP football team more competitive make the Sun Bowl packed every game that you say from 5 to 8 games, and you're making it packed because it was a more competitive football team?
So I encourage you to come to the first home game. We've got a new coach, and I agree with you in your general sentiment there. But remember, what we're talking about here is a facility that is used 5 or 6 or 7 times a year for a football game. It is underused as an asset for all kinds of other things. And so our question as a university is, how can we have a positive impact on the community we serve with this wonderful asset that we have? Yes, sir.
Are there any potential matches or input maybe from the donor base, from boosters, if this were to pass?
We certainly, if anyone here would like to fund this, see me afterwards. We will talk to you. We are always open to those kind of things, and a number of the improvements on the west side were done through philanthropy, and we are deeply grateful for that. A project of this size and scope, we don't think would be able to be done by a donor. There may be some things that could be added or naming opportunities, but not at this scale. Yes, sir.
I think you touched on it earlier, but how would UTEP pay for its share of this? I know, it's not going to be the county fully, right? It would also be UTEP's part. How would UTEP do that part?
Well, we continue to put money into the Sun Bowl. As I said, we have put over $20 million in renovations and upkeep to the Sun Bowl, and then when we run things at a positive net revenue, as we do with the Don Haskins, we do upgrades there. We also worked with Gordon family to put in the Gordon family lounge next to the Don Haskins, the new flooring and so forth. So we do those kinds of things to maintain our facilities.
And what does the timeline look like for this project? If it's approved in November by voters, when do renovations start, and when do we potentially see that first concert or major event?
Well, we'll continue to do the concerts and bring the ones we can here. This is a significant upgrade. One of the things that will be important in planning is we still got to be able to do the Sun Bowl, the bowl event, as well as the football season and those things for home games, which are scheduled out, years in advance. So we've got to plan around those things, so I can't give you an exact timeline. I can tell you that I think, for Texas, you've watched Texas West, these are major construction projects. And in the case of the Sun Bowl, it may happen in a couple of phases, both for reasons related to when the bonds are sold, but also in order to keep operating it. And with a facility that large, we may end up doing a third of it for the concessions and the restrooms, as an example, and not doing everything all at the same time, sequencing them. So there's a lot of planning that will have to go into this. And I will not stand here and pretend to be a civil engineer that could do that for you on the fly.
I understand the locker rooms are going to be upgraded as part of this?
The locker rooms will be, yes. Those are downstairs. So that whole south end, we're going to have to do something with that south end.
So most of this will benefit the concerts, not football, really. It's mostly concentrated on the concerts, not on football.
It is trying to make this venue useful for more things other than our home football games. And green rooms are a big issue. Being able to have a place where food service can be done. Right now, the concessions sell things, but that food is brought from somewhere else. So there's no integrated, kitchen situation. So when acts come in, they're actually bringing in trailers that have kitchens in them to support all of the people in the acts to have food service. So these things are all things that we think would make this iconic venue more useful to El Paso.
El Paso Matters reported, I guess, yesterday that the total cost of the Sun Bowl project will be about $200 million. Is that the master plan over years, or is there more, and this is a key phase, but there's other phases that'll be part of the master plan?
This shows one of the disadvantages of reporting something before it's public. We engage with the county on a variety of options, including the potential of putting a very large 800 to 1,000 foot convention space at the south end. And our feedback from them was they just can't afford that if they're going to have a cap of 500 million. And so what we said was, let's go back, let's take a look at what are the things that add the most value with what we've got. Long term, there may be the ability to do that, but what can we do that's very reasonable for the county to do that has a significant positive economic impact? So would that be ideal to do all of those things? Of course. But sometimes you just have to figure out what is reasonable and would really have a positive impact, and that's what we're going to try to do.
What are the minimum number of acts you would need for this to be profitable, and are there any plans to look at doing something like this at the Don Haskins?
So with respect to the Sun Bowl, we make every event positive net revenue. You see where we are with respect to the county tax revenue. That is estimating 8 additional A-level events a year. So if you want to say, okay, we only had 6, you can divide that out. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. So that's, and if we were able to do 10, but we think it's reasonable to say, can we do 8 more events in the Sun Bowl if it were like this? And the answer is, we think it's really reasonable. So could somebody say, oh, I think you can do 10? Well, okay. Add greater tax revenue, and pretty quickly we're bringing in more in taxes than we're asking people to, asking the county to support the facility. So could I have done the math that way? Yes. But I think this is a very conservative, very reasonable, and the economic impact doesn't even cover the impact of construction.
The UT system owns the Sun Bowl, doesn't it?
I'm sorry?
The UT system owns the Sun Bowl.
Yes, sir.
And the UT system can't put any money into renovations?
It would have to be a fee-based revenue bond, and then you're at a point where that probably doesn't work economically, because you can't put that much money on the ticket price and have people come.
What have your conversations been like with city, county, and local leaders as far as grant funding and the future of the Aerospace Center in comparisons to those conversations and relationships talking about this bond in particular?
I'd refer you to the statement from the Chancellor and Regent L-Type on that. It involves a personnel matter, and I don't have anything further to add.
I know this is getting really into the details, but would UTEP have a preference of just getting one lump sum from a bond issue, or sometimes there are opportunities to save money on interest rates where you phase it out? What would UTEP's preference be?
I refer to the bond council and others there. Beyond dividing by 3 and multiplying by 8, you've probably exceeded my math skills, at least in public.
Why not take this to big donors? I know that UT was able to renovate their stadium just using donor dollars instead of taxpayer money.
Kudos to them. They also had a public-private partnership relationship there, and a different set of donors. So our assessment is that we do not have. If you've got somebody, if you want to talk afterwards, I'd be happy to. But we have had 3 consecutive record years in fundraising at UTEP, with an incredible gift that named the Woody L. Hunt College of Business. Just landmark gift, and that usually happens, once in a career for something that large. We're talking about a $99 million project for the Sun Bowl. There's a reason this initially was built by the county. These are huge projects.
Dr. Wilson, could you talk about the 605 jobs that it would bring to the Sun Bowl? Would those be seasonal and temporary or permanent jobs?
The estimate, this is not just jobs at the Sun Bowl. It's the estimate of the economic impact overall of bringing economic activity that otherwise is going to other cities and other states. So it would be overall economic impact, and those are equivalent full-time employee jobs. They're not part-time jobs, but the equivalent to full-time. Maybe one or two last questions.
To clarify on the economic development thing, so this is for 8 shows a year?
Yes.
You have 3 now that you do. 3 a year.
This is 8 additional shows.
Does this include the 3 that you already have? Or
No, no, this is 8 additional shows.
Okay, not the 3 you already
Right.
do.
And we're trying, we're doing our best to bring other stuff no matter what, right?
You said the county might have 6 or 7 events that they could do.
They would have the right to use the stadium for 6, and then you kind of go, okay, what would the county want to do? I know that there's in another city, the city uses the football stadium once a year for a huge training for CPR, like trains 1,000 people on how to do first aid all at the same time, and the fire department, and everybody's there. So would they have a use for it? Perhaps. We partner with local governments on disaster training, as an example. So
Do they promote their own concerts, the county?
I don't think they have a desire to do that. And it wouldn't make a lot of sense for them to do that rather than for us to just do that. They've expressed no desire to do it that way.
And to clarify, you sent a letter today to the county requesting
They-
this formally? Or
I'm sorry?
you sent a letter to the county today requesting this formally?
Yes. Actually, it may have gone last evening, but they have it now.
And then I want to piggyback off of a previous question. I know you talked about how if this bond doesn't go through, the project would basically be scrapped. But is there a reason why maybe you wouldn't seek funding from other sources as far as big donors, use revenue, bonds?
We're not.
Regions?
I don't. The regions we know can't do this, but for the reasons that I described, we will continue to do the best we can with the assets we have. We still have the same mission to positively impact the health, culture, education, and economy of the community we serve, and we will continue to try to upgrade facilities and accomplish our mission. But this is one where we don't think we can do something of this scale on our own. We need to partner in the same way that my predecessors did in the 1960s. We have to work together, and I think if we do work together, we can have the positive impact that we're seeing here. But all we're really asking the county to do is to put it as part of those projects that will go to the voters in November. Thank you all very much.